mom that we're helping today wrote in saying, I'm trying to build up a little book library for my baby, but with everything else we have to buy, I'm struggling to justify spending a bunch of money on books. And the ones I do get, I really want to enjoy reading them. Any suggestions? Well, I actually do have a few, but I would love to hear other moms chime in on this as well. So the first place where you can actually go and get free books is called Dolly Parton Imagination Library. Now, you will need to go to their website and see if you qualify, because I think certain locations they might not have funding for. But I didn't hear about this program until my second son was like maybe 3 or 4. I was a little bit disappointed because they will actually send you a free book for your baby from birth all the way up to 5 years of age. And it is amazing the different variety of books that they have. I'll show you some examples here in a minute. But the other place that you could go and get free books from is to actually register on your baby registry and ask your guests to bring a book instead of a card. Now, this is starting to become a little bit more popular, so I don't think your guests would be like surprised if you make this request. In fact, for my baby shower, I also asked my guests to include a little note in the cover of the book, so that way when we're reading them to them as they get older, they have this message before they were born. And I still have several books that have these really cute, nice messages from all of my friends and family. If you don't have a good turnout for your baby registry, or you didn't get quite as much books as you wanted, you could always ask your friends and family to gift you books, or at least one book for each of your child's either birthday or Christmas. That allows you to build up your baby library. And of course, we can't forget the fact that you can get free books from your library. Now, of course, this doesn't necessarily mean that you're building up your own library of baby books, but I have found that the library in my area, that if there were certain books that either I or my kids gravitated to, it gave me an opportunity to really determine like, is this a book that I want to invest in for my own collection? You can also check out secondhand stores and garage sales and finding some books on really good discount. There's also like secondhand book websites that you can go to as well if there's a certain book that you want to bring into your collection. But I think that the library, for me at least, was a really great resource. They did do a really good job of kind of rotating the books that they had. And people also were donating books all the time to our library. So it was nice to kind of get a little bit more variety without spending an arm and a leg on like fulfilling all of these books and acquiring them into our own personal library. Now, if you're looking for some specific books that, like you might enjoy reading to your kids, because let me just say, all books are not created equal. There were some that didn't keep my kids' attention, and so we passed those on. Let me show you some of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library books, as well as some of the other books that my sons really gravitated to if you're looking for like different ideas to build out your wish list. So this one is Open the Barn Door. It is kind of like kid size as well, so it's super easy for their hands. And then it has, obviously it's a little flip flap book, and you make all of the little animal sounds. So we had a ton of fun with this little book. And then as they got older, kind of one that they paired well with it was My Peekaboo Barn. And this is like what is it like flip flaps within a flip flap a flip flop. So there's like hideaway within hideaway options, like more than one little flip to go through. So this was super fun for them. And we also live in a very rural area, so when we purchased a farmhouse, our realtor actually gifted us this book, which was super fun because when they're also seeing a lot of similar things in their surrounding. Some classics, of course, are like Goodnight Moon, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. I don't know if it always comes in this version. I'm sure that different publishers have different ways of like providing different books, but this book specifically, I loved how it was individual pages, and then these are actually cut out so you can like do the little divots with your you can like feel the little divots with your finger. So it was super fun to like go through counting with my cowboys as they were, reading this particular book. So this one was a favorite. I really loved reading I Love You to the Moon and Back. This one was more so like my youngest cowboy's favorite book. And then my eldest, we loved If Animals Kissed Goodnight. And then with this, there was like, of course, different animal sounds. That we kind of did and paired with all of the pictures. So it became really fun for him. And it was super cute that as your kids learn certain or gravitate to certain books, then they also start kind of like reading the book to you or copying different like motions or sounds that you make when you read the book over and over. So I'm excited for you to kind of go through that experience. This is another one that my sons really loved. It's Giraffes Can't Dance, and my eldest son actually, when he was younger, he had like a little giraffe like lovey, I guess is kind of what you call them when they carry around something and they get attached to it. So we actually had to get 3 of them because I was terrified that one would like drop out of the car or like get left at a church or something. And also because he always had them with him, they really needed to be washed. And so it was a little bit challenging. I didn't want him to like have to go overnight without his, giraffe, who happened to be named Gerard. But because this is Giraffes Can't Dance, the character in here is actually called Gerald. And what we did is while we read the book, we actually substituted Gerald for Gerard. So we had a ton of fun with that as well. So if there's like a stuffed animal or like a particular toy that you're planning to give your child, maybe finding another book that you can kind of pair together, or if they have already like gravitated towards a particular toy or stuffed animal or something like that, finding a book that is very similar in the character that you can then read together. It might actually make it a little bit more fun for you as well as for your child reading that book every night or several nights in a row. Some books that some of my mom friends said, yes, this book absolutely keeps my son's or my daughter's attention, that they absolutely love, is Goodnight Construction Site. Now, obviously, this is geared towards more so for a boy, but another mom also said that they really enjoyed the Pout Pout Fish book series, and there is more than just one Pout Pout Fish. I have that here to show you. It's this book right here, but they also have a whole bunch in the Pout Pout Fish series, which I think is super fun for kids, that if they get to know a certain character, then having similar books where this character reappears can be really super fun for them because it feels more familiar, and they might gravitate to, seeing their character in a very specific situation. Now, let me show you some of the Imagination Library books. I gotta make sure I say it right so that way you can find the website right. So you'll probably get a range of different books once you sign up, but they all come in this like very bendable book type of book. And so they do come in very different like styles and cultures and characters. So here are some, like, you can get maybe an idea given the way like the illustrations are, but every single book is, I believe every single book anyway, is has English and Spanish inside the actual book. So you can, if you're teaching Spanish to your child, oh, sorry, I lied. This one does not have Spanish with it. But a lot of them do, like this one about snow, which I remember reading as a child. You can see it has both the English and Spanish on the title. And then inside of the pocket of the book, in every single book, there are like little prompts for you to work through this with your child. Now, again, because I didn't sign my kid up until I think he was like 4, I think I said, these are probably a little bit older in age than what you would receive if your child was younger, because I did notice that there was a very sudden like shift once he must have been 3, because I noticed that the books were much were much simpler when he was like 3 and then he turned 4, and then they started to become a little bit more just older, like more appropriate for his age. Like here's another one, you can tell from the illustrations that they're very different. This one, oh my goodness, I love this one. I love the illustrations on this. But anyway, so inside of the pages, there's like little prompts for you, like before you read the story, while you're going through the story, like after the story, to ask your kid to just kind of like develop conversation and just go a little bit further into the story if you wanted to. Now, you definitely don't have to. I mean, if you're just sitting down to read a book with your child, you're obviously already on the right track. Oh, here are some books that shows different cultures, which I really definitely appreciated. So this one is one, and it talks about a little girl. I think she might be Vietnamese. Either Vietnamese. Oh goodness, I don't know if they ever say, but it talks about her and her family like making like seaweed soup, and her parents own a deli, and they talk about Children's Day. So it was just like different concepts that me and my kids would not normally talk about, because we wouldn't that's not really part of like our yearly traditions or yearly experiences. So you can see here, like the colors are very bright and vibrant, and it was just really beautiful. Same with this one, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This one is, you can tell it's very different. Like the cultural illustrations remind me a lot of, like the German heritage is kind of like, or like Dutch. Again, I could be completely off in my like heritage um, understanding. But then once your kid turns 5, they'll be sent, at least this is the book that we were sent, and it was, look out kindergarten, here I come. So I did get an email notification from the Imagination library, and it was just like saying like, hey, now that your child has turned 5, like this will be the last book that they're receiving as part of the program, kind of like good job, mom, for, reading him his books, that type of thing. But then there was a couple of other ones that we really enjoyed as like growing up, and kind of seeing like our kids from when they were like a new toddler into like pre-reading. And that is where are you, or are you my mother? Not where are you my mother? So this one is very similar, like a lot of the same words, so that way it became super repetitive for the kids, like my kids, to follow along the story. And then now that they're starting to read, it's something that they have been like, it kind of pairs as an early reader too. And this is actually one that I do have a message in from when I had my baby shower. Like here it is at the beginning. From one of my like dear friends. So and then if you have a boy, one of the books, you might be able to find this one in a board book. And sorry, I only have boys. So if you're a mom out there that has some girls, maybe you can recommend some like good girl books for this mom or other moms that are looking. But this one is called Bedtime for Batman, and it obviously follows a little boy as he gets ready for bed. And then there's like this little bedtime checklist at the end. And then I know that they also have a like Wake Up Superman book, and that follows a little boy getting ready for school, which, speaking of, I should probably get for my sons since they'll be starting school in the fall. And that way they kind of already know what to expect when we start kind of getting and moving into that routine. The last book I have to show you is, I don't know if you'll be able to find it or not, but this is the Usborne, or I also have heard it pronounced Usborne illustrated alphabet. And this one, I've seen a lot of different like illustrated alphabet books. This one by far is the favorite that I have ever seen. And as much as my cowboys love looking at it, I have to remind them, be gentle with it, because it is very beautifully like bound as well. So I just want them to like take extra special care of it. And so with this, They of course do all of the letters, and then they do all of like some like F is flower and fish and fly, and F is for fox, and you go all the way through the zoo, and there's some fun like pentameter with the story. So this one by far, for an alphabet book, I've never gotten like annoyed or bored of reading it, and it is also very similar into the illustration style that I personally enjoy, so that just makes it even easier. And there's also this idea, I think it's also a website that you can go and like track your books that you read to your baby. Essentially, it's trying to encourage parents to read at least 1,000 books to their child before their child gets to kindergarten. And when you say 1,000 books, it's not just 1,000 different books, it's just reading 1,000 books in total. So if you repeat books, it's totally okay. So if that's something that's interesting to you, they have some different downloadables and different ways that you can track to kind of like do a challenge for yourself. They do basically recommend, like, as long as you're reading one book a night or at least one book a day to your child, will very easily meet this threshold by the time they turn 5. If you're a mom that has any books that you could suggest for this mom or any other mom that comes across this episode, especially for any specific tips that might help her build out her book library for her baby, go ahead and drop it in the conversation below. But if you enjoyed this episode, then I'll link up a playlist of other episodes that you might find helpful or specific to the stage of life that you're currently in. But until we hang out again, I do hope you enjoy and create a home your heart loves.